Well, welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad you joined us today. Today we're going to talk about saving cooking oil. Yes, you either do it, but you're not sure it's okay, so you don't ask questions about it, or you do it and don't think about it. But there are ways to preserve the quality of used cooking oil, and that's what we're going to talk about. Earlier I made a blooming onion, and that took 2 quarts of oil. I made it in this Dutch oven, and oil is super expensive, and I don't just buy the cheapest vegetable oil because I don't necessarily think it's healthy. So here I have a glass jar. This is a little sink strainer that you can buy at any big box store. I think I got this one at Kroger. And this is a jelly bag. I have several of these. Actually, I have about a dozen of these, and I use them for straining lots of things. And yes, it's kind of old and stained, but it's clean. And I let my oil cool totally to room temperature, and you'll see all of the gunk sort of fell to the bottom. And it's pretty important that you give it that time to separate naturally. So this is pretty straightforward. Once it's cooled and separated, you can just skim the clearest part of the oil off the top, and without getting any of the fond in it. Move that a little closer and make it a mess. And we'll just keep doing this till we get down to the messy part on the bottom. Now, if you have questions about this, somebody's saying, well, of course, everybody saves their oil. Restaurants save it for weeks and weeks. Well, you know, having actually managed 2 fairly large seafood restaurants, I can tell you their oil is different. It's not the same, has lots of preservatives in it, and it's used quickly. So by the end of a busy day, with adding oil all day long, they pretty much have brand new oil. So you really can't compare that to this. Cooking oil doesn't spoil. Fat doesn't spoil. I could just leave this out and it wouldn't be dangerous. But both heat and moisture are not your friend with oil. Oil will go rancid, and you can generally tell rancid by the color and the smell. And your goal is to keep the oil cool and to keep it clean. And when you cook in it, you're going to get some moisture. So we're going to take that into account. But we want to leave as much of the solid stuff out as possible, because that solid stuff will contribute to rancidity. You can't do anything about the heat. The heat and moisture and contaminants lead to rancidity. And there's a fair amount of scientific evidence that when oil starts to go rancid, it's no longer really good for you to use. So I'm switching now to a ladle, and I'm skimming a little more closely. And I'll do this until the solids start to go into the ladle. And yes, I could just pour the whole thing through the strainer. I've got 2 layers. But the flour, the burnt flour, would go with it, and that'll go through even very fine mesh. So this is what we have left in the bottom of the pan. And if you'll see, that's kind of powdery. It would go through the mesh. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. You could save another ounce of oil. Just throw it away. Rancidity is a cumulative process. There's the moisture from the onion, there's the heat from the cooking, there are little bits of solid matter. It will go rancid eventually, but we can optimize the quality of this oil and lengthen its time of use. And to do that, I'm going to put a tight lid on this, and I'm going to refrigerate it. And I know that's a step you probably don't do, but it's pretty important. The moisture's in there. And if you can see, this is fairly clear, but a little cloudiness has started. We can use this for a long time if we just take precautions to minimize the impact of those factors that cause rancidity: moisture, heat, and solid particles. So thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow. I think I'm going to make another onion.